Welcome everyone to this month's webinar for the Webex for Developers. My name is Adam Weeks. I'm the leader of the Webex Developer Evangelism, and joined today and is going to be hosting is Phil Bellanti, our Webex Evangelist, Senior Webex Developer Evangelist. Sorry, Phil. You should have, if you're joining from one of the our Webex clients, you should see on the side the Slido poll that's been opened up on the side. If not, we also have a QR code that you can join from your phone. We've got a quick little introductory poll going on just to get everybody, just see how you're feeling and get everybody involved in here. So we'll get that started. But first, before we check out the results there, we've got a quick little section of news for you I like to cover. So for our updates for this month of July, we've had a couple new blog posts out that we like to highlight. The first one being the A to Z contact center APIs for address book. This is a very new series that we've got for our Webex contact center APIs. We're going to be going through and taking a little deeper dive into some certain APIs that are available for our Webex developers for contact center. Kind of give you a view of what's going on those APIs, how you use them, and maybe in comparing them on how you actually could use them on the client as well. We also have another blog that's for JavaScript developers called Runtime Agnostic Webex OAuth for JavaScript projects with Auth.js. So this is pulling in some OAuth tools from Auth.js and utilizing those with your Webex integrations and applications. So be sure to check out our blogs there. We also recommend that you subscribe to the RSS feed for the blogs, so you're always up to date whenever they get posted, and following along there. We also have a couple of new vidcasts from our mobile SDK teams up available on our Webex vidcast library. The first one talking about the new external camera support that the iOS SDK has. So now you can plug in an external camera to your iOS devices and use it instead of the on-camera devices. This is great for folks with iPads and tablet usage. We're seeing a lot of requests come in for that, and we're happy to see that feature. Then we also have another feature for our mobile SDKs and being able to move the meeting between devices and allowing your developers to enrich your application that you've got and be able to move your meeting between either the mobile device or the client or the device or Webex device itself. Another big announcement we've got is we are now a part of the DevNet YouTube channel. The Webex for Developers has a playlist within the Webex DevNet YouTube channel. You can get to that YouTube channel through Webex Dev's YouTube with that short link. I'll be dropping those links in the chat here in just a second. But those videos are being slowly populated out on YouTube, and we're excited to have just another way of consuming some of our videos. If you're familiar with our vidcasts already, then this is going to be another avenue to view those videos, because there'll be a lot of the same content across the two, but some people prefer to consume it on vidcasts and some people want to watch it on YouTube and queue them all up and watch them offline. So we're excited to have that available for you now. And then finally, I guess we say almost the biggest for last is that our developer communities have merged. So if you were a Webex contact center developer or a Webex platform, messaging meetings client developer, there used to be two separate areas on the Cisco community for you. But now we've combined all those into one. You can utilize the labels to identify if it's a contact center API question or not. Those forums are great to have communications with other developers. Our support staff, I know evangelism, and our product management teams are on those forums as well. So we're really excited to have those communities a lot easier in one place to find everything instead of having it being split up. And that's we're excited to have you out there. I think that's all we've got for the news. We want to take a look at our poll that's going on right now.
Yeah,
we've got some results out there.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see who got here.
So, the fictional character you would most trust to handle your customer service calls. Nobody's trusting Elastigirl right now.
Yeah, I guess mine. She's so flexible, and I think mine would be C3PO too.
C3PO. Yeah. I think that was the one. That was my pick as well. That's almost like a. I guess that's where we want our voice AI to go to, right? We need that's the ultimate goal. So that's great. Give a few more seconds and let some more people vote. Right. Great.
All right.
All right, Phil, are you ready to take it away?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you very much. So yeah, it's going to be like I saw on the title slide that it's kind of a Webex Calling for Developers overview. My name is Phil Bellanti. I'm a developer evangelist, just like Adam said. So this talk, it's going to be a lot of use cases and stuff like that. I really wanted to drill home how these APIs are actually being used to build things. So but first I'm going to give you just a little overview of what the Webex platform is, Webex Calling platform is, and then we'll go through the provisioning APIs, the call control APIs, and then the reports and analytics APIs. And then the last section will be some resources, so you'll have a call to action and where you can get started and everything. But hopefully, most folks are already at least a little familiar with how REST APIs work. I probably won't be covering basics like authentication methods and such, but rather give you a good overview of what's possible for building calling integrations. But the platform we'll be talking about today is Webex Calling. So Webex Calling, it's a cloud-based phone system. It facilitates effective communication wherever you work. Webex Calling can be as mobile and as adaptive as your hybrid workforce requires. There's many advanced call management features available for both administrators and agents, along with integrated tools, from the greater Webex suite. So it makes work collaborations even stronger. But the Webex Calling platform that's represented here on the box on top, is where we're going to be focusing on today. And that's positioned as Cisco's flagship cloud calling product. We'll be covering the REST API specifically, so not XSI, if you're very familiar with those. Those are the legacy XML-based protocols. But just to get a better lay of the land here on some underneath the Webex Calling, there's also Webex for UCM. That's known as the Call Manager product, but essentially, the parts of UCM that are cloud-based are accessible through Webex for UCM. And then there's also Webex for BroadWorks, and that's a cloud-based offering at the service provider layer. So both Webex for UCM and Webex for BroadWorks, also have developer APIs. But again, our focus is going to be on the RESTful APIs for the flagship Webex Calling platform. But here are the current groupings of the APIs for calling. Some of these groups have dozens of different endpoints, but each of these represent a different utility or operation inside of Webex Calling. All of these APIs are REST-based, so they function through a standard HTTP methods, get, post, put, and delete. That's what web developers are usually most familiar with already. The learning curve on that could be quite low in most respects. The calling APIs also use the exact same schema as the Webex meetings and Webex messaging APIs. So it's a consistent experience across products. But the majority of these APIs I probably were released within the last couple of years, mainly on the administrator side of things. So I'll go through all those with you. But a lot of work has been accomplished recently by the team. But we'll go through these APIs and see how they're utilized and how they power some fantastic integrations, even some that are built by our partners. But as you can see on this slide, it's a pretty comprehensive set. But these APIs are powering some interesting integrations across some different industry verticals. And a lot of these are used in retail. So that's the one I'm going to highlight here mostly. But just say, for example, routing phone calls, for better integrating with the CRM platform. Use the APIs to offer more intelligent routing, based on the urgency of the inquiry, caller's account status, how long the caller was on hold, things like that. Potentially like high-end retailers may want like a call scheduler integration, to manage VIP customer consultations with like personal shoppers or product experts. And then maybe for larger stores, an integration for floor staff to enhance communication, maybe with other team members or back of the house staff, and improving customer service, quick routing based on the inquiry to the appropriate floor staff, and that floor staff can go right to their mobile phones. And then also an integration maybe that facilitates calls between customer service reps and dispatchers and delivery drivers, so they can get like real-time updates from the drivers. You can let the drivers know of route changes or if there's special delivery instructions. So those are integrations that could work really well too. But outside of retail, just to highlight just a couple more industry verticals, like in healthcare, for example. Let's think of like an integration that provides like an auto dialer service for healthcare staff to follow up on patient care plans, maybe provided in their previous visits. In financial, like a good one is like with fraud detection. So like when unusual activity is detected, an automatic phone call can be triggered to verify the transactions with the customers. It provides an immediate and personal touch for a security measure. In government, a dialer integration to deliver urgent messages and public safety alerts to affected citizens. But really, as you can see, based on these integration examples, the Webex APIs can power integrations with kind of like light call center functionality. And we'll kind of, be touching on, on that term a lot, like light call center. But really, the Webex calling platform has priority goals that keep developers and integrations right at the forefront. So like, as we can see here, we keep an API first approach. And that means, we have the importance of the developer in mind whenever we build new features in calling. Secondly, we make sure that the APIs are intuitive for developers, using the same consistent schema as the other APIs in the Webex suite. We want our partners to drive this innovation, building integrations that make work easier with a higher level of productivity. And that's why we want to make these as easy to use to them so our partners can hit the ground running. And third, well, we want bulk tasks that are normally done one by one inside of Control Hub to be automated. So anything that a calling administrator needs to do inside of Control Hub, we should have an API that corresponds to those tasks. So those are our priority goals here. And so let's just take a look now at the three main categories that represent APIs that are available to Webex calling integration developers to automate tasks before, during, and after calls are made. Okay, so those are like the three steps. So before calls, we got the provisioning APIs. And these actions are essentially for everything that takes place before you make calls, mainly for onboarding, configuration purposes, automating things that admins do in Control Hub for Webex calling, particularly on the bulk task side. So in large organizations, you probably have to hire like a team of people if you want to do one provisioning operation at a time in Control Hub. So this allows you to do everything, in batches or in bulk. But during calls, we have the call control APIs. And these are user-based actions, the actual, like an agent, or maybe there's the agent supervisor. So that provides real-time actions during calls, put a call on hold, mute a call. And it also gives you information during calls, like, who's on the call, what the caller ID is. But we'll dive into these APIs on the next slide, or in one of the next sections. But And then there's and then there's after calls are made. And that's the reporting and analytics APIs, and that provides call data to generate reports. There's been some pretty recent updates on those APIs as well, with call detail records, available 5 minutes after they're completed. So, we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to that section. So let's start with provisioning APIs. They're getting very popular nowadays. They've been powering a lot of calling integrations from our partners. So let's just take a high level look at what they are. These provisioning APIs can automate the bulk provisioning tasks needed to deliver administrator level solutions reliably and efficiently. So these provisioning tools can be leveraged to create integrations that automate the creation and management of users, locations, and as well as configuration of custom organizational settings. Provisioning APIs are generally leveraged for internal solutions, to automate like onboarding, phone assignments, call routing, managing user groups, and we'll go through those. But these APIs are really crucial for larger organizations, particularly when you have to onboard and configure telephony and settings for hundreds, maybe even thousands of users. Developers can automate pretty much anything that can be done inside of Control Hub with these APIs. We also see a lot of integrations for migrating entire organizations to Webex calling, which is a great use case for these. So what used to take months of planning and coordination can now be automated, to get it done more efficiently and accurately. But a great example of provisioning API integration is through our partner, Kermi Software. Their solution simplifies the provisioning process for adding phone numbers, replacing devices, assigning licenses, creating and managing call groups. So many customers use this integration to migrate their existing on-prem deployment to the Webex cloud. So it allows them to go at their own pace in a very efficient manner. But you can find more details about this integration inside the Webex App Hub, and that's located at apphub.webex.com. But let's just compare the different options available for provisioning, the provisioning side of things. The easiest to use, you don't really even need to be a developer. It's mostly point and click is, inside of Webex Control Hub. So, navigating Control Hub for administrators is really straightforward. They have a great, user interface there, very intuitive. But however, when it comes to doing anything in bulk, it really slows things down when you're doing, when you're entering configurations for an entire organization. So what you see is what you get, since there's no customizations options available inside of Control Hub. You just have to work with inside the UI UX. But bulk tests do get better for administrators that utilize CSV files to provision Webex calling inside their org. And then they can have all the settings and configurations loaded on a sheet, and that can speed up automation quite a bit. However, there really is not many customization options there. You basically have to stay within certain parameters, when using CSV files to do your provisioning tasks. But that brings us to the calling APIs, and these are going to be leveraged by developers to build integrations. So this makes them more difficult to utilize for anyone else in that respect, unless you're a developer. APIs aren't something that a non-developer would probably be able to use right off the bat. But, as you can see, once an integration is built, it really speeds everything up, enables processes to be running on long-term basis behind the scenes, getting provisioning tests done quickly and properly. But it also has, customizable options, so to fit any way that you do business in your company. Since no two companies are, doing things exactly alike, working with the APIs, provides the most flexibility, get things done the way that works best for you. But these are the general categories of the provisioning APIs. So I'll try to go through these a little quickly just so you can kind of understand, because there's really a lot there. Just imagine you go inside a Control Hub and there's a lot of functionality. With the user management APIs, those are for automating and onboarding new users and configuration of users and call settings. So an example there, an administrator integration that uses the People API to create, a batch of new users and then assign them Webex calling licenses, or using the user call settings API to configure custom calling preferences. The location settings API are used to manage locations and the corresponding Webex calling settings for those locations. So really, like in this context, locations are physical places that users and workspaces are assigned to, like an office building, a retail center, or a warehouse. So for a possible example there, these APIs can be used to create a script that would automatically configure the calling settings for all users in a new location. The script can be run whenever a new location is created, so that all users in that location will always have, the right settings, done accurately. The calling features APIs, are for managing, a range of features inside of calling for your organization. Each feature has its own set of APIs for creating and managing the settings, but most of these settings are like call park, pickup, queuing, and they're for improving the efficiency of call handling, also for compliance and to ensure that callers are routed to the right agents. And then for phone numbers and service settings APIs, and these are really key to organizations that maintain a large number of phone numbers, and they need a dynamic approach to how they're administered. So integrations can use the phone numbers API to manage inbound phone numbers in a variety of ways, including by location, type, and by routing. The workspace calling and devices APIs, they're for managing workspaces and devices, within a workspace in Webex calling. So workspaces help organize specific areas inside a location. So think of things like conference rooms or meeting spaces, lobbies, or a lecture hall. They all have individual call settings, in specific devices assigned to them. And those all can be managed with those API set. And then finally, we have the local gateway APIs. And these are for retrieving and modifying local gateway configs for on-premises deployments. So these endpoints can create and manage the rules for routing to a local gateway, for handling calls between the Webex calling hosted users and the on-premise PBX users. But altogether, you have a very comprehensive set of provisioning APIs, that automate all the calling administrator tasks that you can find in Control Hub. But just one somewhat new feature that came out, just wanted to highlight, and this is called the Announcement Repository API. And this is targeting markets with large-scale multi-location deployments. Announcements can be uploaded and shared across auto attendants and call queues. But as you can see, on the left side, the new API allows upload and management of audio files through several different endpoints. So the left side is on Control Hub, where everything is just kind of done one by one. But again, if you have many locations inside of your organization, the API is pretty much the best way to go to keep things as flexible as possible for the developers to fetch, upload, delete greetings and announcements at the organization or location level. But sitting in between, the administrator endpoints on call reporting and call provisioning are the call control APIs. And these are on the user level. So these are, again, to perform calling actions and provide information during calls. So let's explore these a bit. So the calling platform has a variety of call control actions. It's a comprehensive set of APIs and webhooks, and they send the real-time event data, for user call status changes. But we'll take a closer look at what those endpoints do in a moment. But again, these APIs are on the user level, since they control calls and maintain a history for their individuals. So everything is going to be done on the user level here. So this set of APIs have been around a little bit longer than the other categories. So people may have already been pretty familiar with these. These have been around for several years now. But the call control APIs can power a variety of use cases for custom call clients and dynamic call routing, populating agent dashboards and widgets. So let's take a look and get some examples. One from our partner here. this is an interesting example from from our partner BroadSource. And they're using the call control APIs for an integration for call agents outside of a PCI compliant environment to take credit card payments over the phone. So this is, a nice little app flow diagram that shows how their app works at a high level. The Webex subscriber in this case is the merchant, but who's the agent that will be taking the payment over the phone. But to attain PCI compliance inside of a call center, it's a very arduous and expensive process, and you always have to have it maintained. So if you have a very small call center, or maybe your agents are even just working from home, an integration like this is great, because now you can still take credit card payments in a very safe and reliable manner. This is all done invisibly to the caller, and even to the agent on the phone. They can't hear any of the transaction taking place of you putting in your credit card information or anything like that. Everything is done just silently. It's almost just like you're working inside of a PCI compliant call center. Great, and basically they're using the call control APIs to do all the routing, to go to the PCI compliant platform and then back again. So it's a great integration using the call control APIs in pretty intuitive ways. But I mentioned that they could be used to perform call actions, provide information about past calls. So the left side here contains all the call actions that can be performed to initiate a call. The dial endpoint that allows users to make calls, answer endpoint to pick up a call, and those are the initiator APIs in that grouping. However, the majority of the endpoints are for like in-call actions, like transferring to another line, putting a caller on hold, start and stop call recording, or barging in on another agent's call. Maybe a supervisor wants to barge in on a call. But on the right, we have a group of read-only APIs that returns past call lists and details, and that can be used to create agent dashboards, widgets, other call logging components. But essentially, the call control API components essentially fall within their own three categories: call connection, mid-call actions, and call details and history. So the call status change events are also available through webhooks as part of these controls, and we'll look at that in the next slide. But together, these APIs and events can be used to optimize active call workflows and custom calling clients. So the webhook events are, I think, what truly drives the Webex integrations. Right? And these are what notifies the apps to any change in status. So inside this matrix, you can see there's different events that integrations can immediately act on. So, for example, when a call gets connected, event is triggered. An integration can use the same logic to stop a call timer. A calling webhook can be created and managed through the same webhooks API as the other Webex messaging and meetings APIs. So the experience is consistent. But on the right is an example of a Webex payload that is sent from the platform, and that contains all kinds of call data that can be leveraged by an integration, such as the caller ID, the timestamp, the locations. All this data gives the developers a lot of flexibility in how they can build their app, and they can use their code to filter specific data that they need and create the appropriate logic around it. Also part of the user level calling APIs is for voice messages. So this set of APIs enables the voicemail integration apps via the APIs. It supports workflows that automate things like voicemail prioritization, archiving, and developers can also create message waiting indicators with webhook events, like the one kind of shown here in this illustration. It's all done in a very straightforward way, just like call controls, but it's all in the user level. But the last pillar of calling developer platform we have is the reports and analytics APIs, and they represent the tasks that take place after calls are made. So the APIs for calling reports and analytics, they're mainly used to realize customer success. Ultimately, just as important as any other part of the call journey. So reports can be derived from templates. They can be fully customized using call detail records available through an API. We've seen these used for training, optimizing enablement and process designs. It also makes better oversight solutions, particularly for the industry vertical it's going to be operating in. To give you a good example of a partner that's using these APIs is partner Evercom, and their integration is called Myobi. So this integration leverages the reporting APIs to power custom dashboards, and these can be tailored for specific business needs. So you can efficiently track, let's see, like key metrics, things like the call volume, the durations, the costs for each call. It also serves as a great monitoring tool for auto attendance and call queues. So this is a great integration that's using the reporting APIs. You can learn about the integration also in the Webex App Hub. So be sure to check that one out. It's Myobi. But let's just take a look at at a high level how the reports APIs can work. Okay. So the reporting templates are configured first by an administrator inside of Control Hub. And this ensures the proper data is being populated, for your business needs. There's a whole bunch of templates available. I wrote a blog post a while back that describes the calling report options in more detail. So we'll put a link to that at the end of the session here. But essentially, these templates can be utilized to generate calling reports right through the APIs. But there's a whole bunch of different ones for call quality, call volume, all kinds of things you can get from the templates. But developers can retrieve, the template ID, for the one that they need to start using, using the Get Report Templates API, the one on top. And then basically once they find the template ID for the one that they want to use, they can use that ID and they can optionally add a start, an end date, or specify the sites to be included inside the report. And those are the parameters for the reports API. Now with this, the reports may take up to 24 hours to generate, depending on the size and how many reports are actually in the queue. But the response body provides a report ID, and that's going to be needed for the next step for retrieving the report. The reports are all encrypted data, so we just had to make sure we do one more additional API call needed to get the unencrypted report details. So here in the next API call, we're going to do a GET request, and we just have to do one parameter, and that's the report ID that we grabbed in the last API call. The Webex platform will respond with a JSON payload, and that contains information about the report being generated through the template. So if the report is still in the process of being generated, the status will indicate in progress. As you see, like right there on the screen, inside of the payload there under the field for status. Otherwise, look where it says right there, the status is done. And then the download URL field will be included inside of that payload. So you won't see that field while it's in progress. But once that status is done, then you'll get the download link. And then you can obtain your report. But we know the Webex calling customers have long been able to download their historical adult detail records from Control Hub and using the reports API that we just take a look at. But a lot of customers have been waiting for a quicker way to get call details in a programmatic fashion. So this is where customer reports can now be more easily generated through the detailed call history API. So instead of using the canned reports from the templates in Control Hub, developers can just leverage this API to get call records as quickly as 5 minutes after the call is done, up to 48 hours later. So then you can get these reports, and you can get these call detail records and build your own reports. The authenticating user must be at least a read-only admin. They could be a full admin too, but and have the administrator. There's a little check mark box inside of Control Hub. It actually inside that administrator role, it has to check Webex calling detailed call history API access. So there's actually you actually have to enable that inside of Control Hub in order for you to be able to even use this API. Okay, now that we've went through like the different categories of of all the calling APIs, let's go over the resources the developer can start to leverage so they can get going and build calling integrations. The first one I like to mention, I think is pretty new. Developers can leverage the Webex embedded app framework for a special type of sidebar app inside of Webex calling. Sidebar apps reside on the left pane inside of the inside of Webex. You'll see that like kind of highlighted here in the blue box. But sidebar apps are essentially tailored for individual users of Webex, and these sidebar apps also have the ability to receive calling events, like the caller ID, for example. So with that information, applications can perform things like a CRM lookup. So, for example, it's a known customer calling into you. The app can present information about that customer inside of Webex. So the user has all the caller context displayed immediately. So, and that's kind of represented inside that green box there. And then you can also populate with anything else you want inside there. There's basically a lot of space that you can start customizing it for. But really, this is what's commonly referred to as a screen pop in contact centers. So it kind of brings a little bit of this functionality inside of Webex calling. So again, like touched on before, it's kind of light contact center functionality. We also have dedicated SDKs available, and that kind of simplifies the methods for embedding Webex calling into your native apps, for a seamless end user experience. So instead of people using the Webex application, they can be using your own native app. Maybe it's a native mobile application on Android or iOS. With this SDK, this is derived from the larger Webex mobile SDKs starting in version 3.9.1. And this allows calling developers to use a leaner alternative version of the SDK that only incorporates Webex calling functionality. But in the most recent update, I think it's 3.1.0 or 3.10, we added support for up to 3 call legs and also ability to use closed captions. And we also recently released the web calling SDK. This is like the mobile SDK, derived from the full Webex browser SDK, but it only includes calling functions. There's also a great kitchen sink demo ad available to get you up to speed quickly, so you can try out all the methods there. So, and then you can find that over on our developer portal, and I'll point you to that shortly. And here we go. So really, the first place any developer should start going, whether it's a calling application or a meeting application or a messaging application, is the Webex for Developers portal. Excuse me. We have a very nice landing page there where you can find an optimized sign-up flow, a completely revamped card-based layout for our documentation landing page. You'll see a card right inside there for Webex calling. So you can start getting that, and it'll bring up all the guides to get going. But along with all this new stuff, developer portal is where you can manage all of your applications, configure your integrations, and you can also link up with our awesome developer support team. So you definitely want to be there first. But on the portal, all developers can also obtain their very own Webex sandbox. And that's free to enable. It's free for all developers, and that gives you your own Webex organization, a fully licensed organization for testing all the API endpoints. So particularly on the provisioning side of things and the reporting side of things, now you can make some real tests because you're going to have administrator access. Because when you go to your production organization and ask your administrator if you to start building things and testing things, they may be a bit hesitant. So this gives you a licensed organization that's just like a paid one. There's no difference. You can have up to 10 users on it. So, it allows you to really be able to test things properly. And there's a lot of other great things to get you started. We have the developer overview guide, and that's found inside of the updated documentation. That's a great resource to get familiarized with all the services developers have access to. And then to get going the provisioning APIs, you can check out the guide that's on the developer portal, as I mentioned earlier. You can also find my post on the calling reports and analytics overview in the blog section of the portal. So those two things, I wrote both of those myself. So hopefully you'll find those helpful to you. So it'll really kind of, it goes well with this webinar. This webinar kind of sets the stage for a little bit, and then you can check out those guides to get a little bit deeper into it. But there's also a really nice Postman collection for the calling APIs. You can find those in the official Webex GitHub. So if you ever used Postman before, you know how valuable these collections can be to start testing the APIs and get them quickly incorporated into your code. And then finally on this one, one of our esteemed colleagues, Johannes, created a great calling SDK for Python. And this SDK makes working with the API calls and webhook events much easier. It just streamlines it. So I encourage everybody, especially if you're enthusiastic about Python, to check that one out. I know there was a lot of Python enthusiasts at Cisco and partners, so have fun with that one. It's a really good SDK. And then here's also some helpful links for everything else too. Things that are also found outside the developer portal, like our official Webex GitHub repo. That includes our SDKs, code samples, demos. So you can find everything I said there. If you're looking for Webex Contact Center, they have their own developer portal too. So reuse those as much as possible. But now, let's do a little quiz for a prize. I'm going to ask the Cisco people to sit this one out because I really want to see a customer or a partner win the prize. It's going to be a little quiz on some of the things that we talked about here. Let's see if I can get things started.
Yeah, this was something I missed at the beginning, but yes, we do have a $50 discount code for the Webex store.
All right, so
see how well you were paying attention.
Get joined in the quiz before I start. I'm going to give everybody a minute or two.
Yeah, so if you want to win your Webex swag, now's the time to do it.
$50, it's not bad. You can get something nice.
I was trying to keep up with all the links that you were mentioning and dropping them in the chat. So if you needed those links, you can grab them from there.
Okay, and we have the slide up on the screen right now, right? Okay. All right, so here we're gonna go. Now accuracy and speed is what it's about, okay? Because once there's only 3 questions, so there's gonna be a lot of ties. So whoever is got the questions right and the fastest will win. So let's start the quiz. Oh, wait, what happened? Okay,
here we go.
What are the 3 pillars of Webex calling APIs? Ooh, all right. Most people got that one right.
Looking good.
That's right. Very good. All right. So, Ravi, very good job. Well, actually, Michael is right behind him. So, well, actually, they're tied.
Oh.
I don't know if there's any milliseconds there, but. All right. The next question. When does call information become available in the detailed call history API? 48 hours after a call completes? 12 hours, 30 minutes, 5 minutes, or 1 minute?
Have to be really paying attention on this one. Let's see. You got some scattered answers on that one, Phil.
Oh, all right. We ready? 5 minutes. It's ready 5 minutes after the call, please. Up to 40 hours, but it starts 5 minutes. Let's check out our leaderboard. Oh, Michael. Taking a commanding 4-second lead. All right. Everybody better be on top of their game if they're going to think they're going to take Michael down. All right. You must have an administrator role to access the Bargain API. True or false? This one was tricky.
Yeah. You really got him on this one.
Got the answers in. All right, here we go. The answer is false. That is on the call control user level side of things. Yes. Sounds like an administrator would be barging in, but no, it's not. So let's
got him
see.
with that trick question there at the end.
Michael!
All right.
Congratulations. Everybody did well, though. We have 3 people who got all 3 right. Michael, Matt, and Jeremiah. Great job, everybody.
All right. So yeah, Michael will be reaching out to you to provide you with your discount code for the Webex store. Thank you for participating.
Nice.
We did have a couple of Q&As come in.
Sure thing.
That I've been working with our support team to try to get some good answers, but we may not have the proper answers for you, but we will get them to you. The first one, Phil, and maybe you're aware of this, and this is what I was kind of thinking, is that the question is there an API to establish a conference call? Consider passing 2 destination numbers to establish 2 different call legs and bridge them together.
Yes, I believe so. I have to look at the APIs to see exactly which ones those are. But yes, you should be able to do that. I don't know. It depends on how many lines you have, for example. So there is other factors involved, but considering that you have all of the all the capability within your system, then yes.
Yeah, I think you definitely would utilize the transfer API. But maybe
and I know there's 2 different types too. I'm putting my old telephony hat on. It is like the take back and transfer, which is where there's not actually 2 call legs, so you're only being billed for one of the call legs, and then there's also like just the regular blind transfer, which usually ends up having supporting 2 different call legs going to. So yeah, I know there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but I'd be confident to say that it is possible.
And then the next one is this one. I'm not real familiar with the virtual lines, but is there an API to fetch hold count and hold duration for a call on Webex virtual line?
I'm not aware of that being a native function, but I'm sure logic like that can be built with the timer.
Yeah, and I know you can get a lot of information from the list calls API, but I'm not too familiar on the virtual line, so we'll have to dig into those and get those answers to you.
Yeah, that's a good question.
yeah, we'll post those up on the community forum thread that we have for this webinar. I think I just saw one come in the chat. When will APIs be released for hot desking via workspaces and desk phones? We don't have the release schedule, but we can try to get you in touch with the product manager in front of those. And if you have not already, please utilize AHA to create those feature requests. You can get those links, and actually I can probably share that link as well in our community forums.
Yeah, I know workspaces is something that they've been working a lot with lately. So that could be something that they potentially have already worked on or are working on.
Yeah. Python library webexCC ADM from Trey Hilliard. Yep. Great open source community library from one of our Cisco employees, Trey, that's out there to utilize.
Oh, is that another Python SDK?
Yep, and lots of great Python things being created by our community. We're excited to see all of these and everyone's excitement around building on the Webex calling platform. I think that's it. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Phil, for hosting and giving us all the knowledge on the calling APIs. And we look forward to having you join us for our next webinar. So please stay tuned on the developer portal, subscribe to our RSS feeds, and we'll see you next time.